Hey everyone, and welcome back to So You Say You're Married. And today I have a wonderful new guest on with me. Her name is Shannon Negi. And Shannon here does something extremely interesting. She works with women on helping them overcome their money blocks so that they can manifest the life of their dreams. And I'm going to pass this over to her and let her tell you a little bit more about what she does. So, Shannon.
Hello, Kodi. Thanks so much for having me on. This is so much fun. So, I come from big corporate. I'm a former corporate executive from California and New York, running radio stations and lots of large companies. And I realized that I was not living the life of my dreams. I mean, don't get me wrong, life was amazing. Okay, I had two little children. I had gotten married. I had two dogs. I had a house. I had all the things. But there was still something missing. And so I got into a space where I wanted to help more people. I always have. It's kind of how I was raised in corporate too. I was always the mentor. And, it was sucking my soul. So I decided to go rogue and ditch
I
the
love that.
corporate
Go rogue.
hustle. I went rogue because I literally, like, most people that know me were like, what the hell are you doing? like, like, why would you give up that amazing salary and go do something that you have no idea if you're going to make money? And I'm a CPA by trade. That's what I trained for. That's what I was really good at for a really long time. And so I decided to go off and first try to do sales. Didn't go very well. And then really morphed into this space where, okay, I know how to run a business and a lot of people don't. And so that was really kind of my stepping stone 2 years ago into really big time entrepreneurship and starting my own brand, figuring out what worked, strategy, all those things. And it's morphed into me really helping women clear their money blocks. As a CPA, it wasn't something I thought I had issues with until I was blocking myself from making money. And that's really kind of led me into working on my own money issues and realizing how many pieces of that actually hold us back from being able to manifest the life that we want and being able to actually step into all these things that we sit and dream about, right? And we don't think they're possible. So that's led me to where I am today. So really, money coach. I bring a lot of different elements into it too, and that's the fun part. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm getting certified in human design. So there's a lot of different pieces that I bring into play when you work with me.
Awesome. I'm so curious more about what I've never worked with a manifestation coach, first off. So I've only read about it and studied about it on my own. And I'm so curious about everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. But when you say, for clarification on anyone that's listening now, when you say manifestation, what exactly does that mean when there's a block and you can't manifest the life that you want?
So for me, it's honestly very simple. I think we get into people want to be like, oh, I'm blocked. I can't manifest this. I'm trying, like, honestly, you're trying too hard. Okay. Like, I'm going to keep it
It's a
really
story
simple.
for everyone, isn't it?
I'm like, you're trying too hard and you're not in the right energy. And a lot of it has to do, honestly, with how we are. So a lot of you, if you don't know a lot about human design, don't worry, I'm not going to get crazy on this, but it's such a fascinating thing that I started looking at a couple of years ago, and we are all different. We all operate differently. So there is, to me, no one size fits all for manifestation or, affirmations, all those things, right? If your affirmations aren't working, you probably don't believe what you're saying. Things like that. So for me, manifestation is very much getting in the energy of what it's like to receive what I want. So if you think about, okay, I want to receive $1,000 tomorrow, just to keep this very simple. I want to receive $1,000 tomorrow. Well, you need to get in the energy of how does it feel to have already received it? And I know people probably hear this a lot from a lot of people, but it really is true. Stepping into, if you're stuck over here going, how the hell am I going to make $1,000? And you're saying, do, and you're trying to make it happen versus, okay, I trust myself. I believe that I'm capable of taking action to go make this happen. And you believe that you're going to get it, it will come. And that's for me a very basic, especially coming from a more like strategic background in business. Manifestation was this. Well, what? Like what? What exactly is manifestation? Like, great. So like stuff's gonna appear. That's like for me when I came out of corporate, it was very much like, what are all these people talking about? And really, it's just aligning with what you want in life, and then going to take the action because you trust that you can make it happen. And that's a big piece of it is trust.
Is it fair to say that if you get in that mindset and you're ready to take those actions, that your behavior is what dictates your result? Because once you decide to take those actions, you actually start behaving in a way that's differently than what you were before, which in turn generates different results in your life.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, because that breeds trust, right? If I trust
Mm-hmm.
that something's going to happen and I take the next step, whatever that looks like for you, right? Maybe it's hiring a coach, maybe it's just putting yourself out there on social media, whatever it is. If you have to do it from a place of belief in yourself, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, nothing matters. You could show up till you're, talking to everyone on social media for the next 100 years, and if you don't actually believe that you're going to make a difference, that you're going to help someone, that you're worthy of receiving, you'll just keep talking and nobody will come. Your message doesn't come through. And that always, I've had clients along the way, like as I started to move out of very strategic stuff, really teaching how to build your brand on social media and into more of the energy flow of things and clearing the money blocks this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy for people. Like it's not, we don't teach you to get in the energy of like getting an A on a test, right?
Right.
like,
Right.
like we teach you go study, do the things, and you'll get good grades, right? Like we don't teach you to believe that you're going to get an A on that test. So there's, there's definitely a shift that has to take place in your mindset for people to
Mm-hmm.
be able to take this next step.
I think that's why it's so difficult for a lot of people too, is because it's foreign. It's something that we aren't introduced to at a young age,
Yeah,
or rarely. If you are, you're very
rarely.
privileged, you know.
Right.
And it's something that a lot of us have to learn after we've gone through several trials, and we're kind of all in this shift of, okay, there's more to life than what I've got right now. There is so much more. Now, how do I find it? And then it's that desperation that puts you into that mindset of figuring things out so that you can learn what you need to learn to take the proper action to shift your life the way you want. And
Yeah.
that goes for just about anything, that
I
manifestation
a
applies to
hundred.
all aspects.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, oh, I want to manifest that. It's not, it can literally apply. It's kind of like the word abundance, right?
Hmm.
Abundance is not just money. Abundance is love. It's all these different things. It's whatever you have or want more of in your life can be considered abundance. So I think of manifestation the same. It's all aspects of your life you can manifest whatever you want.
Hmm. That is so true, so true. And I'm a marriage coach, so I've got to bring relationships into this a little bit. So
Yeah,
when you're talking about manifestation and you're building the life that you want, that actually can relate to your relationship, your marriage as well. So
150%. Yeah.
yes. So when you're talking about building that relationship or building that marriage that you want out of life, you start learning how to manifest that. You start thinking about, okay, what would it feel like if I had this type of relationship with my husband versus what I've got now? And your behavior starts shifting, and
Hmm.
your husband notices and his behavior starts shifting, and then all of a sudden you've manifested something that you didn't even know was possible. It's
Yes.
fascinating.
It's really fascinating. I think for me, I was a little, I mean, trust me, I came out, I'm like, teach me how to run an online business. Okay. Like, I'm
Hmm.
like, I know how to run a business, but I'm like, all these other things started to happen. And I was going, oh my God, what is all of these things? The interesting part is I was always really creative. I just had kind of squashed that down.
Hmm.
So as some of these things started to come, it was more is this okay for me to do? It's outside the norm. Like, what does that look like? Those types of
Hmm.
things. Like, manifestation and calling in what you want, all those things is not a normal thing. And I say that like, I don't like the word
Mhm.
normal. So let's be clear. Okay. I'm not normal is like, you say normal. And I'm like, it's kind of like people who say, well, this is just reality. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Okay. Like, no,
Mhm.
you get to make your own reality. Okay. I don't like that word. I'm not being realistic in any way, shape, or form.
It's
So
subjective, it's very
it's
subjective.
subjective. Yeah. So it's one of those things. It's the same concept though, right? Getting into that energy.
Hmm.
And listen, I'm married too. So as you know, that's been one of the things that's money is constantly a thing in our house. And as I work on my stuff, I definitely see him, he's watching and he's like, what's she doing? Right. And
Hmm.
he will start to shift. And it's one of the things actually that I've been working on too, is getting us in a better place to be able to deal with the money issues and deal with the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur, because I always had steady
Hmm.
income. And now, now things are still, we're in build mode. And so it's not always easy for him either, because he also doesn't come from the same environment. He's like, what are you doing in there?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
He's
I'll be
like, has my wife lost
meditating.
her mind? What's
Yeah,
going on?
I'm meditating, like doing all the things. There's crystals all over my office, like all these things. I'll be like sitting on the floor pulling cards or whatever. And he just always is like, well, I don't know what you're doing, but okay. And he's very much like, show me the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you do all the things you want as long as there's money coming in. So it's been an interesting balance for us to try, make sure we're communicating, I think is a big part of it. Listen, your
Mm-hmm.
significant other may not always understand what you're doing. So it's our job to also be able to tell them like, hey, here's what's happening. That also goes, that's also part of my human design. Like my job is to inform. So
Mm-hmm.
the more I can inform him, the easier it is for him to trust what's the process of what's happening.
Yep.
He believes in it. My husband's Indian and comes from a long line. Like from what we understand, his mother, his grandmother were all healers. And it's so interesting to me. Like I look at him and say, why are you're like, your mom's a healer. Like, why are you looking at me like I'm crazy sometimes? Like,
Yeah, he should be used to this by now.
yeah. So it's so funny to me sometimes because, I do yoga and stuff like that. And so I laugh because he's almost more American than me sometimes. I'm like, you come from this, like, this is your, like, this is your guys' legacy coming from India. So it's really interesting to me. But yeah, I definitely start to see the shifts
Mm-hmm.
and then, as you start to cultivate what it is you want. And I think the thing is also being fairly clear on what you want so that you can
Yes.
also work, communicate that in a relationship and saying, I'm available for this. And as we all grow and our manifestation powers get bigger, it's a change and it's a shift and they will notice for
Mm-hmm.
150%.
Mm-hmm. And the more, what I've noticed, especially in my own relationship, the clearer your goals are, the more you understand what you want out of life, the easier it is for your spouse to be on board with it, to support it, because they don't feel like you're squirrel mode. They don't feel like you're darting all over the place with no direction whatsoever. They feel like, okay, she has an idea and she's confirmed about this idea. She believes in it. So it's easier for me to believe in it too, rather than if she doesn't and she's just floating around with it, then he's not going
Yeah.
to put his faith in it either. So the
Yeah.
more direction you have and concreted you are in your direction, the easier it is on your spouse, whether they understand what you're doing or not, the easier it is on
Right.
them to be supportive.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's moving in the right direction too, right? There's this squirrel mode. Listen, I'm notorious for squirrel mode because that's a little bit of how I operate. And I'm always
Mm-hmm.
constantly starting things. And it's hard for him because he is different than me. And I'm like, listen, I'm not built to finish things. Like I have a really hard time finishing things. And it's just, I've just embraced it. It is what it is. And we're working on getting me help to be able to finish the projects that I start. And so,
Mm-hmm.
he's not like that. He doesn't understand that. So he's constantly like, what's going on? So it's communication, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's, that it's communication, but then yes, having the direction, knowing I teach this first with my clients. What's the vision? Where do you
Mm-hmm.
want, what does your life look like in 3 years from now? Because that's what we're working on manifesting. All of these other pieces in the middle are just the action steps that come along the way. But ultimately the ultimate manifestation is, the vision 3, 4, or 5 years from now.
Yep.
And that's the ultimate goal. So, explaining to him, like, here's the different pieces of what it looks like so that, and these are just stepping stones of where we're going. Right. And some
Mm-hmm.
of it's trial and error, when you launch something and it doesn't go well and you're like, okay, great. What's next? Right. But knowing where you're going and making sure you communicate that is really important.
Mm-hmm. And having that drive behind it too. And again, that all goes back to originally what we discussed in the very beginning. Your behaviors drive your result, and that is how
Yeah.
you manifest the life that you want. And you can't just, like you said, if you launch something and it doesn't go well, okay, what's next? Okay, what's next? You can
Yeah.
continue progressing forward. You
All
continue
right. This
moving
is real
forward.
life.
I know. I
I'm
got my
like, it's
tongue.
real
My
life.
dad, we're very Southern, and my dad will always say, you got your tongue over your eye teeth and you can't see what you're saying when you start doing something like that. But, but you continue progressing forward, you know, and you don't go backwards. You don't go back on your goal. You don't miss out on what you're manifesting.
Yes.
You don't, just because you had a hiccup in life, you don't give up on it and go to something else, especially if it's something you feel driven towards. That's the work that goes into manifestation. That's the work that goes into
It's
building
all
your
of it.
life. Mhm.
Yes. And you know, and that, listen, it's not to say everything's going to be unicorns and rainbows. And I remind my clients of that. I remind everyone of that. Listen, you're going to like,
Mhm.
there's going to be stuff that doesn't work, and that's okay. Right. I think knowing that, okay, I tried, like, let's not be hard on ourselves. We tried, it didn't work. Let's go to the next thing. What's
Mhm.
the next piece that I can work on? Because I promise you, if you keep going, I actually said this to my husband the other night. I'm like, he made a comment about, gosh, what did he say now? Because now it was so good. And I just looked at him like, he made a comment about like it having to do with luck, because he
Mhm.
says that a lot. And I'm like, it just has nothing to do with luck. Okay. I am like, if you keep going and you keep trying and you keep moving forward, you will not fail. It
Mhm.
may take longer than you wanted it to take, but you won't fail because you didn't give up. The only way it fails is if you give up, right?
Mhm.
And I really believe it's not really about luck. It's about work. It's about determination. It's about believing in yourself. And that's really the magic pill. There is no there is no like other, like, if you don't quit, you don't fail. It just, you
Mhm.
know, and it looks different for everyone. So it's one of those things. I'm like, you just have to keep on the path and trust that, okay, my vision is X and I keep it in mind and I'm going to keep going.
Yep.
But that's
Exactly.
not easy for a lot of people. So,
No, it's not. And that's why a lot of people, this is my opinion now. This isn't fact. Okay. But in my opinion, that's why a lot of people settle, is because they don't want to do the work. They've already talked themselves out of it. They feel like it's too hard, or, well,
yeah.
that's not meant for me. That's only for these people over here. It's not for me. How do you think these people got there?
Yeah. I mean, I
You know?
guarantee you, every one of us who's just ahead of us and making more money at this point in time is just because they started before us, or,
Mhm.
you know, they weren't afraid to take the chance. And that's, I mean, we have to remind people of that quite a bit now, especially, you
Mhm.
know, you don't get like that old, like, what's that quote? You miss, you know, 99% of the chances you don't take because you
Mhm.
didn't take it. Right. And that's a huge part of manifestation, is the trust factor, right? And trusting and being in that energy of being able to receive and trust that you're on the path and you're going to be supported.
Yep.
If you don't trust that, you're not going to get what you want. I promise you. Like, it just doesn't, the universe will not bring you what you want if you don't
Mhm.
trust that you're ready for it.
That is
So,
so true. And that's how I feel about people when they're working with other people, whether it's, you know, your colleague or your spouse, your boyfriend, your best friend, whatever. You know, if you don't trust in your own ability to believe in what you want and the relationships that you want with people, then you're not going to get them. You're not going to find those people
yeah,
that you're looking for to quote unquote upgrade your life. You're not going to find those people that
yeah,
you vibe with. You're just going to continue being stuck in this kind of like an isolated island almost. And
yeah,
if you do not start believing in yourself and believing in what you want and then taking actions on those, it's not going to grow. And that's something that we talk about, that I teach my clients, is you have to learn how to get your mind in the right space first
hmm,
with your relationship on where you want it to go before you can expect it to do anything, before you can expect your husband to reciprocate. You
yeah. It
can't
takes time.
expect anything from him without changing yourself first.
We, you know, we live in this world of instant gratification, right?
Mhm.
And I'm pretty clear on that now when I start with clients. Like, listen, this isn't a one and done. This isn't
Mhm.
a like, okay, great, I wrote my affirmations out and like I said I trust myself. Like this is a lifelong, like, you are starting the shift to create lifelong change, right? And to do that, listen, stop 6 months from now, something in your past is going to come up, and you're going to be
Mhm.
like, what? Like, where did that come from? And you know what? Then you have the tools. And that's why I'm so adamant. I'm like, this isn't about like a certain strategy that everyone can do, right? Like, manifestation
Mhm.
is a very personal thing. You need to understand, what are the tools that I can use to be able to bring that forward. Same with money blocks, all the pieces, right? Having tools to know, okay, what's this old story that came up? Why do I not feel like I deserve this? What are the things? And being able to use those tools to get yourself back in this space where you feel really good. Because it
Mhm.
really is like, the better you feel, the more joy comes to your life. And I'm a big advocate of that. It's, you know, moving your body. I teach an embodiment dance class every month. just around like getting the stagnant energy moving in your body, because I kid you not, if you go outside and dance for 5 minutes, you will feel like a whole new person. So there's various ways to get you moving, but it's allowing yourself to understand, like, I have to trust myself. And on those days when I feel like I don't, what do I need to do to release the negativity, whatever it is, so that I can get back to what I was doing.
And how to keep yourself from spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
That's the beauty. Like you said, those tools go with you forever. And that's similar to what I teach with my clients too, is tools on how to handle your relationship for any obstacle that life throws at you. And they don't expire. These aren't trends.
Yeah.
These aren't things that just popped up because, something new in the industry happened and people are excited about it. No, these are things that have been going on for hundreds, potentially thousands of years with us. And it's just popularized with mainstream media, but it's not new. It's not disproven. It's not something that somebody just made up. It's something that has been passed down and those skills are given. And that's what we do. You as a money block coach and a manifestation coach, and me as a marriage coach, that's what we do, is we give you those tools to last forever so that you can continue building your life the way you want.
It's been so hard. Like, this industry gets a lot of bad rap, and like us helping people. And I think it's really like understanding, like, there really isn't a one size fits all, as I've already said. And once I started to realize that, because that's what I was looking for at first, I was like, oh, that person's doing that. And a lot of people do that. You get in a place where, well, so-and-so's doing that, so I should do it. Okay, it's not working. Like, let me go try something else. And I think stepping back and saying, okay, how do I operate? And that is a huge piece of what I bring to my business now, is because we all operate differently. We can all do affirmations differently. We all have different things that allow our bodies to process things. And so being able to understand those things, to be able to bring that strategy then into your business as a very unique individual is a huge plus. And listen, there's a lot of people out there that don't teach like that. So it's more like, do this and you'll make $10,000, right? You'll manifest $10,000, do X, Y, Z. And then it doesn't work. And people are like, well, what the F? Like, why isn't it working? And it's just, you need to understand that you're unique. And the sooner you get in that energy of, I'm my own person, how do I need to operate, the faster it can come.
That is so true. I've personally had that struggle in my own business, because I've been coaching for going on 4 years now. And the first couple years, I it was still getting your feet wet, figuring out what you want to specialize in, all that good stuff. And I remember going, all right, I know people do this, so there's got to be like a formula, right? There's a formula on how this works. And I want to find that formula, and I'm going to follow that to the T.
That was so me.
And then, because I'm from corporate too. I have a corporate background too. And then after that, I was like, wait a minute, that is not how this works at all.
That was me. Even in corporate, I'm like, there's got to be a spreadsheet that someone already made, right? Like, there has to be something. That was 100% me. I'm like, there has to be someone that can teach me how to run an online business. Like, there has to be like steps, right?
Yeah.
It was 100% me. And the deeper you go, the more you realize that the sooner you can do it your way, the faster you'll grow.
Exactly.
Like, hands down, 100%. The faster you get in yourself, like, you're the magic. Okay. Like, you are the brand. Okay. Nobody else. You're the brand. People are buying you.
That is so true. And that's how people connect. That's why people want to work with you. They find that relatability with you. They can't just work with everybody. We all know that, working in a job, we all know not everybody works well together,
Right.
And I laugh at myself now for looking for that instruction manual, because when I think about it on all my personal level, I never looked for an instruction manual, like with my husband or with my friends or with my horse, even, I never looked for that one-step formula, because it was all customized. It was all individualized. It was something that I had to build on my own. And I thought, well, how silly of me for trying to do that on a professional level too.
The way we're taught, right? Like, we're taught in corporate, follow the rules. Here's the rules. Here's the way we do this. Create, I would just think about all the places that that I worked, where I was brought in to like create the process and this stuff. And I cringe now. So I'm like, why did they think, like, I'm not good at process? Okay. And I mean that in the nicest way possible to myself. Like, I like to do things differently. And so, the sooner I realized that, the better, the easier everything got for me, right? But that's also not an easy thing. Like, us allowing ourselves to be very unique and to be ourselves is also very scary, right? I stress very much vulnerability and authenticity, because people want to get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're buying your energy, right, which is your time and what you're going to bring, like they don't care what you sell. Like if they trust you and they believe in what you're offering, they're going to buy from you. And that's really the magic of building a brand. So the more confident you are as you step into this new energy, like the more literally it brings everything. It brings the money, it brings the manifestation, it brings all the things.
Yeah. And I like what you said about being vulnerable, because that is actually a superpower. People view it as a weakness
A
a lot of times, and
superpower.
they want to harbor that vulnerability to keep it away from others. And really, that's your superpower. That is how you relate to other people. That's how you attract other people. That's how you make other people feel safe with you.
Yep.
And that covers the gambit, whether it's in your business and your business relationships, or whether it's within your marriage and your spouse. The more vulnerable you can be, the more open and relatable you feel to other people, and they're
Yeah,
willing to open up with you, and they're willing to work with you, and they're willing to compromise with you. And that is huge,
absolutely.
is a massive superpower that we all have. And a lot of us don't want to use it. We don't want to recognize it. And that's
Yeah.
something that I teach, is teaching you how to be vulnerable without being abused, and how to
Yes.
use that. Yeah.
Which is super powerful. I mean, I love that you do that because I think it's really important. And we're not, I feel like, especially this, like those of us, I almost said middle age. I was like, oh, I am not middle age. What am I saying?
Yeah, we're not going to
But
use those
just,
words.
we're, but we're not, that's not the way like we were all raised, right? Like most people, I should say, like once
Mm-hmm.
again, if you were raised like that, amazing, you're a little bit ahead of the rest of us. Like that was just not a thing. Like we were taught, like I was always taught, like be strong, be tough, like don't let people see your weaknesses, all those
Mm-hmm.
things. Like, we teach people all those things. And now I'm like, that's a load of BS. Like why? Like listen, you need armor sometimes depending on who it is, but you also need to know when to stand up for yourself and those things. But yeah, I really,
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability is your superpower, especially if you're building a brand online, especially if you're doing anything that serves people, that helps people. People got to be able to see that you're also a real person.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. And I love it. It's terrifying though. I mean, it's not easy. We're talking about these things
Uh,
like they're a walk in the park. They're not easy at
it's
all.
the
And they're things that
scariest
you have
thing
to
on the
work for.
planet.
Oh, goodness. I mean, I
Oh,
remember
it's
when I was trying, and I still struggle with this. I still struggle with being vulnerable online, because, you're
it's
putting
hard.
yourself out there. It's like you took your diary from middle school and you're placing it out there for everyone to read. It's terrifying.
Yeah,
But
it's
at the same
scary.
time, I haven't had a negative response.
No,
Everyone
and you
responds to
won't.
it. Yeah, because everyone's like, "Oh, she's gone through what I've gone through. She
All of a
understands. I'm not
sudden,
alone."
yep, all
Mhm.
of a sudden you're relatable. And that's such a big thing, right? All of a sudden, I have to think about it. I just remind myself, like, even if I'm being vulnerable and it helps one person, like I know there's at least one person out there who needs to know that she's not alone, right? And
Mhm.
so and that's kind of my mentality when I write posts like that and when I show up to share things. Like I know, like there's one, even if there's only one person, there is someone out there who needs to know she's not alone, and that, someone else has gone through this or is going through this. So it's really powerful when you bring that stuff to the table.
Yes, it is. Now, speaking on that and continuing on this topic, when you're working with your clients and you're teaching them about manifestation, about vulnerability and things, what kind of reactions do you get at first versus by the end of the program?
You know, that's a good question. So obviously everybody's different. My job is to really hold space to allow them to bring whatever comes up when we're dealing with that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Some people are ready to deal with it. Some people take longer. People have different stories that come up. And really what we do is like my job is to hold space. I do a lot around, okay, what limiting beliefs are coming up? Let's talk about those. Let's list those. What could they be? And diving in, but really allowing them to connect the pieces, because it's not like, listen,
Mhm.
I'm going to give you tools, but it's also like, I'm not the teacher, like at the head of class, right? Like this
Mhm.
is more, I have to let them connect the dots as to what old story is connecting to them not being able to bring clients into their business, right? And what limiting belief is stopping them from manifesting the money that they need for next month's bill, or next week's bill that's due, and things like that. So it really involves just really holding a lot of space and giving them, hey, here's what I see, but now what do you see? And allowing them to bring it forward, because really ultimately they need to understand how to monitor
Mhm.
what's happening. and me just giving them all the things. And that was, that was something that took me a while to learn, right? We go into things, we're used to, I'm going to be a coach or a mentor, or I train people in corporate. Like, we're used to being the teachers. And this is way more just about being in a space to allow them, your clients, to connect the dots, and then giving them the tools to be able to work through all of those things.
That is very true and very powerful too. My favorite is the aha moments, like when they finally come to the realization and they put those dots together, and then you get to watch that shift in their life
Yeah.
and in their
Yeah.
mind. And that is very powerful and very exciting, because then you start watching their life shift in the direction that they want it to go.
Yeah.
And,
It's really
like you said,
powerful.
sometimes it takes longer for others than it does for some, but
Yeah.
it is either way, as long as they stick with it and they get there, it's one of the most rewarding and gratifying things you can do for somebody.
It's literally the best thing. I mean, I love, like, I get so happy when I see people starting to make shifts, and clients starting to bring more people in, and just getting out of the negative mindset, right? Like, that's a
Mhm.
win for me. And just watching them do that is so, so powerful. Exactly like you said. It's, we all have limiting beliefs. And I think now that I am way more focused, I do, because that's like the beginning of a lot of what we do. Because if you don't clear the mindset stuff and you can't get past that thing, like showing up on social media, okay, great. But like,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean a whole lot if you haven't truly been able to start to work through some of this stuff. So that's a really powerful piece for me. It's just, I love it. I really do. Like, I would, sit with clients all day long and help them make those massive shifts. And it's scary. I mean, it is
Yeah.
like, there's no sugarcoating here. Okay. This is the scary part. This is I don't want to do this work because that makes, like, it's going to make, I'm going to cry. I'm going to do whatever. And it's okay. All of it's okay, but it's part of the growth process. So
Mhm. It's uncomfortable. Growth is not comfortable. I mean,
growth
there's
is
a
not
reason
comfortable.
there's a phrase called growing pains for a reason, right? Growth is
Yeah,
not
growth is
comfortable.
very uncomfortable. Well,
Mhm.
especially this too, because I feel like, especially women that come to me now, especially, are like, they know they're ready for change, and they know they've been playing small, and it's all of a sudden like, okay, but I need support, and I'm ready for support. And that's a big part of it, right? Like, making sure that you're ready. You have to be ready to do this work, because it is not easy.
Mhm. That is so true. You have to, it's funny because we work with them to help them make that mindset shift, but they have to shift before they even come to us. Like, they have to get to a point of, I call it, where the pain outweighs the comfort. And that's
Yes.
when you start
Yeah,
making a change,
exactly. Yeah.
and when the pain is bad enough, you're going to make a change. You can't stay with it anymore. And that's when they start reaching out and going, I don't know what change I need. I really have no idea what I'm doing, but I
That's
know something's got to give.
Listen, that was totally me. And a lot of the times, the people that I've ended up working with, like, I don't know what I need, but I vibe with them and I trust them.
Mhm.
Like, they have, like, I know there's something there, and it's starting to, that goes back to trust, right? That goes back to
Mhm.
trusting ourselves. And especially when we talk about manifestation, like, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust that you're worthy. You have to trust that you're ready. You have to trust that, like, you're doing things that are moving you forward to what you want to manifest, right?
Mhm.
So all of those involve trust. And when you meet somebody who you're going to hire, you're also trusting that okay, but trusting that, that person's, I think there's a lot of misconception around, and listen, this is also can happen with your spouse, like, right? Like,
Mhm.
we're like, oh, you're going to do it for me, or you're going to give me the steps, like we said. And this is so much of the growth, is about you personally doing it. Like, I can't do the work for you.
Mhm.
I can't do the mindset shift for you. I'm here and I'm going to support you along the way, and I relate that to, like, our significant others in our relationships, because in any relationship, really, like,
Mhm.
both of you have to work together to make things happen. It's not a one-stop shop. So
Yep. Yep. You can't do it for each other either. You can't,
yeah,
no matter how badly a wife may want a husband to change and be emotionally available, you
right.
cannot force him into that. And
No,
vice
no, no,
versa.
no.
The husband can't force the wife to stop doing things like that. You both
Yeah,
have to work on your own, and then you can work together. And that is
absolutely.
something that people are terrified of doing. And also, it's hard to admit that. I mean, as humans, you don't want to admit that you have to work on yourself. You're not perfect. That's one of the hardest
Listen,
things we can
that's
admit.
coming back to the vulnerability that we already talked about, right? Like,
Mhm.
we're not taught to be vulnerable. We're taught to, a lot of people are taught to keep it hidden. Don't share that with people. People don't want to know. Listen, I come from that. I
Mhm.
like, I have still to this day. One of my examples is, she's it just is what it is. Everything has to be like the perfect face. We can't show any weakness, all of those things. And I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, I can't live like that anymore. That's also not real life.
Yep.
Right?
Mhm.
And it's okay. It's funny. I've been talking about this a lot this week, is just, it's okay to ask for help, right? Like getting
Yes.
to that point, like it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for support. I was the girl who did everything on her own because I thought it was weakness to ask for help and support, right? So I come from
Mhm.
that. Trust me, it's okay to ask for help. You just got to work through and get ready to do it. Like
Mhm.
one of the most powerful things I ever did was hire my first business coach. And that has now led to so many other things, but that was freaking petrifying. Okay, let's be like, I get it.
Mhm.
Like hiring somebody to help you and knowing that you have to step in and be vulnerable is really freaking scary. So
Yep.
I get it.
And being willing to receive it too. You can't just ask for help and then turn a deaf ear. You have
Yes.
to be willing to receive it, to work with it, to understand it too.
Yeah.
And that is this one of the second hardest parts about being vulnerable and asking for that advice. Because you can't just go, okay, well, I need your help and I know I need your help, but I don't want to admit that I need your help, but I've already admitted that I need your help, but like I don't want to take your help, and you go back and forth. And I was there, I was there when I was leaving corporate because I was going, I know there's more than this, but I should be able to do it on my own.
Right.
I shouldn't
A
need
hundred
somebody.
percent.
And I
Yeah.
learned really quick that's not how life
Yeah.
works.
I did about 6 months when I first left corporate. And then I was like, something's not right. Like, if
Yeah.
this isn't working, I need to find help. And that was kind of my first foray into finding somebody to help me. And now I mean, I have so many people that help me. You guys would be like, oh my gosh. But because I know, I'm like, I want to hurry up. Like, not that I want to hurry up and grow. I mean, I do. Don't get me
Hmm.
wrong. Some of the stuff I'm like, can you just go away? Okay, thanks. I'm done with you. But it's putting all the tools in the box and saying,
Hmm.
okay, I'm going to use all the tools that I have to grow faster, right? And
Yep.
once you start getting help, like I feel like I will never be without help. That's just how I
Yep.
operate. As I constantly
Hmm.
grow, for me, it's the benefits far outweigh anything. Like I would never want to go back to being totally alone again. It's just not. You grow so much faster the more support you have.
That
So
is so true. I did the same thing. I reached out and I work with a team now too, and I couldn't go backwards. I could
yeah,
not. There would be no way. I would be drowning first off,
yeah,
just in the tasks that they handle versus what I do. There's no
yeah,
way I could handle it all, excuse me, by myself. But then the support that comes with it,
yeah,
the relationships that you don't think about building when you do start working with someone that do manifest, that do grow. And
yeah,
it's very rewarding working with someone, especially when you find a good fit as well, because it gives you that
yes,
encouragement to continue moving forward. But it also gives you
yeah,
someone to
absolutely.
bounce ideas off of, and to keep you from getting stagnant.
Yep.
Hmm.
All needed as
Yes.
much as your therapist,
Yes. Well,
coach,
Shannon,
therapist, whatever. You
well,
need all of the things.
there, I tell people there's a difference between a counselor, a therapist, and a coach. And there's a massive difference in all three on what we do, and a difference in a psychiatrist as well. And people are like, well, explain. And I'm like, okay, but you got to sit down because it's going to take a minute. Believe it or not, this isn't a quick explanation. And I always tell people,
Totally.
coaches work with who you are now and they move you to the present, and everyone else works with other things that are a little bit
Yeah.
deeper. And that's why we all have different training, because we specialize in different things. it's
Yep.
not it's not that one is less than the other, it's that we all do different things.
Yeah.
And
And it just
that
depends on
is
where you're at. I mean, I'm a big fan of, like, if it's outside my wheelhouse, I'm the first one to be like, no, you need to go over here. That's why I love having a network of amazing women too, to be able to say, no, you got trauma. Okay, let's send you over here and talk to the trauma, our doctor trauma. And like,
our doctor
there
trauma.
is lots of people. Well, she's a PhD. Like the trauma coach. They laugh because I'm like, is she a trauma coach? She actually has a PhD in trauma. So,
Hmm.
and helping people deal with trauma. But it's like having that. Like my sister's a psychotherapist. So, having different avenues for people. So when I know it gets outside of my wheelhouse too, that's really important, because
Hmm.
people should understand, like, I'm not the end all be all either. There are
Right.
things that are going to be outside my wheelhouse as they come up. So listen, it's a layer journey. It's a peel back the layers. And don't worry, the sooner you start, the sooner you can manifest what you want.
Hmm. Hmm. It's all about taking that first step and really getting
Yeah.
started. Hmm.
Yep.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really enjoyed our conversation
Me
today. And
too.
I
Thank
think there's a
you.
lot of wonderful nuggets in here that people can really glean from. So thank you so
I
much
hope
for that.
so. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Yes, yes, definitely. And tell everyone where they can find you if they want to reach out and work with you.
Sure. It's shannongarrisonnegi.com.
Mhm.
It's also, you can find me on Facebook, Shannon Garrison Negi, and Instagram is Shannon_Negi. So plenty of places to find me. Come say hello. Tell us what you loved about this podcast. And I would love to get to know you.
Yes. And you will be able to find everything to reach out with Shannon down in the show notes below. But be sure to leave us comments, visit us on social media. And in the meantime, guys, we'll see you next time on So You Say You're Married. Bye.
Bye.